Today, let's talk about lighting. So there are very few things in video that are sexy outside of the camera, and a lot of people spend a lot of time looking into what camera they should buy, maybe even what lens, the accessories that go onto the camera directly. But there are some things that are just not sexy, like tripods or even microphones. Maybe some people find them sexy. I know I do. Sound gear in general. But lighting, not many people spend a lot of time on that. And I think people underestimate and overlook the importance of lighting and what it can do for your videos. Now, if you're going to do high quality videos for your practice or your small business, especially if you have a contained environment, or if you're going to do a controlled environment on location, doing interviews, and you want consistent results, you're going to have to look into consistent lighting, portable systems, things that are going to allow you to make yourself look good and represent the best part of you on camera. Now, there is the school of thought that you can simply take a cell phone and, do a selfie video, and that's great. If that's the sort of content you're going for, I say go for it. You can use natural lighting, being next to a window and what have you. But then there are those of us who want ultimate control over every aspect as possible, as much as possible, myself included. While I do like natural lighting, I think it's important to have the ability to control your lighting. Say if you want to do some cuts in your video and you don't want clouds taking over and, the cuts look dark, like when you use natural light, you want to be able to cut it how you want it. That requires you to bring in artificial lighting in the form of, an LED panel or something like that nature. And that's what I want to talk about today. I purchased about 6 weeks ago. Today is March 21st or 22nd. I can't remember. But anyway, it's late March now, and probably in January, maybe mid-February, I purchased the Lowel Tota LED. So it's like totaled Tota LED light system from B&H. It was on sale. They had some specials going on. I think I got it for $350. I think it was $100 off, but I decided to go ahead and try that system out. There was only one review, and actually it wasn't even a review. It was the product announcement directly from B&H themselves. And to this date, as of March 21st, I still have yet to see any independent reviewers review the unit. So I'm going to take it upon myself to go ahead and do that. And so I just want to read a little bit and show you a little bit about what we have here today. So the Tota LED unit is basically an update to the previous edition that Lowell released a few years back. And while that was a tungsten unit, it ate up a lot of power, 750 watts, something like that. This LED unit uses a lot less power, but gives the same amount of output, given that LED technology has come so far in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's 5,600 Kelvin, and it has a pretty large heat sink on the back that allows it to dissipate some heat, which the LED technology doesn't have a high heat output, so you don't need to use gloves or anything like that. In matter of fact, I ran it 2 nights ago for about 3 hours straight without needing to use any gloves or anything like that. And I was able to turn it on, turn it off, reposition, and these things without any assistance from any other protection. It does not have a fan, and it comes in a padded case that's pretty handy, actually. It's probably about 14 inches by 14 inches by 3 inches or 4 inches. That's actually pretty handy and pretty portable. So that's part of the reason I like it. The only other parts that I would recommend that you get with it is maybe a light stand, a light duty light stand, I think as long as it holds up to 5 pounds, you'll be fine. And as well as an umbrella. Unfortunately, the design of this unit does not lend itself to a softbox readily. You can do it. You can use a large umbrella and maybe even one of those Westcott systems where the zipper is in it and you can put it inside the umbrella itself. But for the most part, you probably don't have maximum control over the light. It does have some barn doors that allows you to direct the light, but it's not going to be something like the aperture system where you connect it directly to the ring and you can go ahead and put it in a softbox and amplify the light by using the reflector inside and contain it. It's daylight balanced at 5600 Kelvin, and it has a pretty decent output for the money. Like I said, I got it for $350, and it came with a small umbrella too, but you know, it's not going to compare with some of the aperture systems, the 120D or the 300 version that they have, which are, you know, immense outputting units. But, you know, I would say that if you're not a filmmaker, if you're just using this for talking head interviews, I'd say go for it. This is a pretty decent buy if that's the aspect you're going for, or if you're doing YouTube videos. I am not using the system for this video, but I do have some examples where I compare this system that I got actually from Lowe's hardware against the Lowel Tota LED system, so you can have something to compare against. Now on the B&H website, it says that the dimming allows you to go from 100% all the way down to 10%. That may be true, but there's a lot of play in that last 10% where it's just a strong cutoff. So it may be giving you down to the 10%, but that last little bit, there's a lot of control in there that's just pitch black. And then you hit a threshold where it does turn on. And so it feels almost like it's not genuinely controllable from 0 to 100 or 10 to 100, but it may be, but I haven't really measured the output, but I have measured it in f-stop, so we can compare the max and the minimum when we look at some of the examples that I'm showing you here today. It weighs 4.5 pounds and it is a fanless design, so it's exceptionally quiet, so definitely works well for interview-based material and YouTube content where you're just doing something like I'm doing right now. Now, some of the things that you should know about it, it operates on a yoke system that allows you to, you know, just tilt it. It doesn't allow you to pan really. Well, I guess you can pan it from the pivot point where you mount it on the light stand itself. But there's some barn doors where you can control the angle of the light, but it's not, it doesn't maximize the controls as you would see in some more expensive units. But for $350, I can't complain. It's pretty portable. I take it on the road with me for interviews and these type of things, so that works. Now, that yoke system has its limitations. It, you know, allows you to tilt, and you can pan and pivot from the point of contact where you have with the light stand itself. But there are so many cables, and it gets a little cumbersome, to say the least. But that 4-pin, almost XLR type of point leads into another XLR female adapter that's actually threads on. And that part there is the part that I like least about the unit. It's so proprietary. It's not 3-pin XLR. It's like a 4-pin, very thin pin XLR system, and that kind of worries me. And that leads into the control unit where you can dim and adjust it, adjust the lighting, turn the power from AC to DC and off. They could have combined that with either that unit with either the light itself or with the ballast, the the power brick that you would plug directly into the wall from that unit. So you have one cable leading from the light to the control unit, and then another cable leading from the control unit, which is a true XLR system that you can take from there to the power brick, and then the power brick itself goes into the wall. So yeah, it would be better if they had a longer warranty rather than the 1 year. That's kind of worrisome. I saw a written review that mentioned that this particular reviewer was worried about that those 2 or 3 connection points. You know, if one goes bad, then that's it. And how do you diagnose and figure out what is the issue? And I actually agree with that. You can go ahead and you get a lot of length when you separate the units, and you can connect for a very long distance to a wall unit or what have you. But I think what they were going after was to allow you to keep it light on the light stand and remove as much weight, including the V-mount battery, if you were going to go with that, and hang it down lower on the light stand or what have you. And that's cool, but that should have been part of the power brick itself. They could have done that. So maybe it was cheaper. Again, it was $350 or so, but it works. It works. You just got to be very diligent and pay very particular attention that you do not kink any cables, because I could see that going very wrong. And then you're not able to, use the light, even though the light still, rated for 50,000 hours, can't get power to it. What do you do, So rather than get into the minutia about CRI or lux and these things, I'd rather just give you a benchmark example of what you can expect. I've included some examples of what the lighting system can do in my garage, so you can see exactly what this light compares to a shop light. And let's take a look at it. So some details about the shop light that I use. It is a Utilitech Pro 3000 lumen LED stand work light. And it can be tilted, it can be panned, and it's a 4000 Kelvin white balance. And I'm not sure what the light output is, but again, we're going to use f-stops. We're going to go off of what the ISO is and compare it against the Lowell directly based on ISO and f-stop. The shutter speed will be consistent at 180 degrees, which is basically going to be 24 frames per second. So that's 1/50. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But basically 1/50th shutter speed, which is 180 at 24 frames per second. So you'll be all right. For this first example, I have no light on, and I metered it. I wanted to keep it at f4 because I have the Leica 2.8 to 4 f4 variable 12 to 60 lens. And I usually keep that lens at f4 because I don't want it to be variable at any point. Unless I need that extra stop of light, then I'll use it at 2.8 at its widest angle. But for the most part, when I'm doing talking head, I'm going to use it at f4. And at f4, with no light, I needed 12,800 ISO. Deep. Yeah. So I pretty much went very high on the ISO right there. And you can see how that looks right now. For the second example, we use the shop light, the LED light from Utilitech Pro, which I got from Lowe's Hardware. And there's no diffuser on this example, and that dropped it down to 640. It's a significant drop in ISO requirement. So this light is pretty powerful. I metered it at 7.1 aperture, but again, I'm keeping it at f4. So that's about a 1.5 stop difference. And basically, as a habit, I like to overexpose by about 2 stops. So that's about right on point where I want to be. In this third example, we see the same shop light from a hardware store for $100 or so that I bought it. F4 ISO 1000. So with the diffuser, it does drop off the light output, but it does soften the light some. So that's a benefit. And I metered it and it came out at F8 by my light meter's reading. Again, the lens is at F4. For the fourth example, we switched over to the Lowel Tota LED, the totaled light with no diffuser. It put us at an F250, which is pretty good. It's almost the native ISO of my camera, the GH5 and the G85, is 200. So that's almost right at the perfect mark for the native ISO. And I metered that, and it was metered at F7.1. The next example, same light, the Lowell light with a softbox, the same softbox that I actually used for the shop light, which is a collapsible light from, it's a Diffuse collapsible softbox. It was originally released for those flat panel LEDs, but I bought it because it was so collapsible. You can just roll it up and put it in your bag and good to go. And you got yourself a collapsible softbox. So what you see here is the Lowell with the softbox on it. The ISO is 640. And the light meter, although the lens is still at f4, the light meter says that it recommends that I use an f8. So again, right where I want to be at 2 stops or so. Now we've moved to using the Lowell light with the included 32-inch umbrella, the shoot-through umbrella, which I would recommend because it, collapses easily and you get a good discount. It came for free with the package deal that B&H was offering, and they probably still have it as of March 2019. I think I saw it recently, maybe even yesterday, still offering that package. And what we see here is ISO 800. So it only pushed it up a little bit in terms of the ISO requirement. But again, the light meter still recommends that I shoot at f8. Now, for this example, the Tota LED, I put on its lowest setting. And you see how that compares, and that pushed the ISO up to 2000. So you see that on its max is probably most effective if you want to get that shallow depth of field behind you. And it looks good, but I would recommend probably just blasting the light since it's a matter of, since it's rated for hours rather than power output. So you're still probably not saving much in terms of time, in terms of the usability of the light, even though it's on its lowest setting. But again, if you don't have a light softbox, then you can go ahead and use it without the softbox. On its lowest setting, you'll just have some stronger shadows possibly on the far side of your subject. And finally, we have the Lowel Tota LED with the umbrella on low, and that brings us to ISO 5000. So not ideal, but this is how it would look if you really had a subject that maybe was light sensitive and didn't want to be in the bright lights, and you still wanted to get the soft light on them to favor them as much as possible. So yeah, this is just a hint of light being added. And in this case, I would probably recommend it probably as a kicker light or something of that nature. But if you did need it as a key, which I probably would recommend, this light is intended as a key light. If you only had one light source, let's say you do a lot of traveling and interviews in hotels and what have you, which is basically what my game plan is. Interview family and friends and CEOs, whoever I have to interview, independent physicians, healthcare professionals, physician assistants. This is what I intended it for, is to travel out, get them on video in front of the camera. So all told, would I recommend this unit? I would say yes, if you don't want to pony up for the Aperture 120D, which is basically the gold standard for YouTube these days. And it won't kill you to go up to that price range. I think they're going for $700 something which is a little pricey for a light. You know, like I say, most people want to spend their money on a camera or even a lens. Lenses hold their value. Lights, I don't know if they hold their value. I haven't owned a light long enough. But definitely, I would say yes, if you're looking for something portable, you're looking, you know, you don't want to spend any more than $300-400, then I say go for it. It gives a great light output. You know, if you have a soft box, it comes with the diffuser. I forgot to add that. It does have the diffuser that goes inside of it. And it gives you a great quality of light by itself, especially if it's on probably a lower setting or medium setting. But if you have a small umbrella or a large enough softbox that can fit over the unit itself, I'd say go for it. Where I would vote down is if you didn't trust your cables or you don't have good cable management, then I could easily see this thing getting a kink in it and causing some problems for you, and you're not going to be able to resolve them without knowing somebody that knows how to do wiring, because the warranty is only 1 year, which is a total downer. Then there's the question as to if this was released 6-7 months ago, why is there no reviews? Why are there no reviews? That concerns me. I think I've passed the point where I can even return this unit. So I'm just going to have to baby my bad boy and make sure that I take good care of it so that I get the best use and most hours out of it. And I probably will never use this in studio, only because I have a home studio that's set up with the hardware units that I got from Lowe's. The shop lights work great. I have 3 of them. I use one for my key, one for my fill, and one for the background. And I go really orange on the key, so I white balance for that. And then I use some green kicker right here. And then on the back, of course, blue. And that gives me some dynamics. It gives me some color. But again, if you're going to light yourself, I say just start simple. Do something, get some fairy lights for the background like I did in these examples. And then you go ahead and just get a key. So the fairy lights, I think, were all of $20. Just give yourself some texture. Don't go overboard. If you're going to have a direct setting, a setup like where you're going to do repeated videos, kind of like how I have in my office, I say go for it. Get a good light. The Lowell is a great light if you're going just for that and you're not going to move it. And if you're going to be portable, I say great, go for it. If you're not so careful with your gear, I would say no, because I worry too much about those cables. There's 3 or 4 points that can go bad, and we don't want to invest any money in weak points of contact that we're not going to get our value for. So with that, what do you think? Do you have the unit? What are your thoughts? Are you interested in getting some lighting? Is lighting even sexy? Are you able to get done what you need to get done using natural light? What lighting system do you use? With that, I just want to encourage you to keep the content rolling. Even I have trouble maintaining the consistency of this YouTube page and anything else. It's a lot, and you got to pick 1 or 2 things and stick with it. My Instagram page is not strong. I need to work on it. But the 1 thing or 2 things that I do well is definitely the podcast and this YouTube page. So I want to keep up the pace. I just released a video recently reviewing the NTG3. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And I just want to encourage you, get out there, make a difference. If you're in healthcare, more power to you. I want to make sure that you know that there are options. Direct primary care is on the rise. Insurance is going to run into problems. They're going to fight their way as much as they can to survive. But I want to encourage you to keep up the fight. Make sure that you know that there are other options regarding how to pay for healthcare. And, just do what you do. I want to see your content. Comment down below, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts.